And welcome back to Talk to Me with the coach, Michael E. Mayden, as we're visiting with Jim Thome, Chicago White Sox. Jim, I sure reach a young audience, and there are a lot of, I coach college ball, and I scouted for 5 major league teams, and every kid I ran across, it was this ambition to play big league ball.
Yeah.
When you were a kid, we're going to take you back a little bit for those youngsters out there. Was it your dream to play major league ball, that you know that you were going to play major league ball?
For sure was a dream, coming out of Peoria. I grew up downstate here, growing up in a pretty good town, full of sports, basketball, baseball, and football. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, baseball was in my family. I was fortunate to be in a great baseball family that played a lot, and my father kind of taught me how to play as I got older, and, it worked out pretty good.
Mm-hmm. In my experience in baseball over 30 years is the life of the average Major League Baseball player is 2 to 3 years. How have you maintained your longevity in the game?
Well, I think when you have longevity, you're very blessed. To pinpoint, how it happens or why it happens. I mean, I remember coming in, the only thing I wanted to do was play 10 years, at least have that as a goal. And when I reached that, understanding, I think how, as you're older, how to take care of yourself, and just being, I think, more blessed than anything. I watched Eddie Murray play a long time in his career. Same with Dave Winfield. They came over to Cleveland there, and in watching the Hershiser, same thing. And watching those guys play a long time, it was definitely an ambition and a goal to accomplish that.
And I know for most major league players, there's always uncertainty in the back of their mind.
Yeah.
At what point in time did you reach that comfort zone in the major leagues where you knew you were in and you were in?
Well, I don't think you ever, I think as you progress, it's certainly, you don't think about it too much, but I always say the cliche, you never figured it out. The game will humble you in a minute, and if you ever think that you've got it figured out or you've got things accomplished that you don't, then it'll backfire on you. So I try not to go there and think about it too much. I just try to prepare like I always have, and know there's going to be some ups and downs along the way, but also, just ride it out.
And with your longevity in the game, you're most likely to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Have you given that any thought as far as your legacy is concerned?
Well, it's something that I think is very humbling, when talked about. Again, I was a kid who grew up in Peoria, career, and you see some of the accomplishments and some of the names. It's very humbling. So I think that's something that will be answered later on, in time. And it is certainly, I think, drives every player if you're ever blessed with that opportunity. But, it's certainly the main thing right now is the opportunity to win a championship and accomplish that.
And, we got about 1.5 million youngsters that's watching this show. And I always tell young people when I was scouting and coaching that it's all about an opportunity. Where and how did you get your opportunity?
This is the thing. It doesn't matter where you grow up, where you're from, what college you go to. Ultimately, if you're a good player, you'll get the opportunity. Somebody out there will see you. You got to be lucky that somebody sees you at the right time. But it ultimately, I think, you work at
I got to ask you this question now. Everybody remembers the scout that drafted him. Who was the scout that drafted you?
Thome.
I've been knowing Couston over 15 years.
Yeah.
And he's a piece of work. Now,
he's a piece of work. When he drafted me, I never met him. I never met him. He actually, we were playing, it was Lincoln Land at the time, and he told me between a doubleheader, he said, "Hey, turn around." So I turned around by the fence, and he goes, "Hey, I know there's a lot of scouts here," and they weren't even looking at me. It was something they weren't even looking at me. But he said, "Hey, turn around." I said, "Okay," and he goes, "Hey, if we draft you, will you sign?" And at the present time, I'm like, sure, whatever, we'll work that out, and all that good stuff. And ended up being he and that was probably maybe one other time I saw him, but he definitely is a piece of work. He's a special guy. I owe a lot to him because he obviously saw me and recognized me and gave me that chance and put my name, within the Cleveland organization.
When I was scouting, I came up on that Coustone and Bill Brick era, so I can only imagine what he put you through.
Oh, he's something else. Again, he's very special to our family, and we won't call him too crazy, but I think he's got a little crazy.
I will. And I know you got to get ready. I got one last question. Sure. I always end my interview by asking my guests, major leaguers, when you first walked in that major league locker room when you made it to the big leagues, what was that experience like?
It's probably in a young guy's career the single greatest day of your career. Playing a long time and being very blessed to play a long time and see young guys come up and having that opportunity as well. Every kid that plays in little leagues through high school should dream about that chance to be and to dress in a major league locker room and put on the spikes and go out and perform, because it's something that as you get going, not that you take it for granted, but I think as you get a little older in your career, you appreciate it a little more, because things you understand that, hey, maybe your career is winding down a little bit and it's not going to last forever. So I've tried to put all that in perspective.
And you find yourself mentoring these younger ball players when they come
Well,
out?
yeah, and I think there's a right way to do it. I've never been a big rah-rah, get in your face.
Mm-hmm.
I think the best mentoring and tutoring should be, one-on-one, whether it's in the clubhouse, on the plane, maybe at dinner, and just talk, and let them talk, let them, say what they have to say, and then, as a veteran guy, you give some knowledgeable advice as well.
Well, the coach, Mike Mayden, visiting with the future Hall of Famer, Jim Thome.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Always